Pokémon Home, exactly the most greediest shit you could expect. Just absurd greed ever. Just exactly what it is, exactly what I expected. And so hello everyone, Life Review here, and I feel the challenge turning more and more into Pokemon. I want it to be about psychology, I want it to be about the game development, alright. But I still want to go back to this things. I made two, long Pokemon videos last year, and I worked with game development for 15 years, right? Especially role-playing games, one of my big fortes, right? So first of all, I want to say this thing, Fire Emblem, okay? This game, okay? Fire Emblem, Three Houses, an amazing role-playing game to Switch. I played it for over 220 hours now. My second playthrough, played on Madden, of course, classic. Fantastic role-playing game, much better than Pokemon, much better worth your money. So I dropped it out there, and I will also say that I think you should play it on Madden. I only played the Madden myself, and not because I did it hard, but I think that one issue with Fire Emblem is it's too easy otherwise. So I stand by that. Play it on Madden. It's hard in the beginning, then it gets like a good difficulty. But in the beginning, it's too easy. It's hard. But if you play it on hard and normal, it's too easy in my opinion. But I digress. But anyway, the much better game, and that game has the DLC coming out soon, and Pokemon, and I am much more willing to pay for the Fire Emblem DLC than Pokemon. Right? So talk about Pokemon Home, also talk about, of course, the DLC of Pokemon as well, announced quite recently as well. So Homes is now out, right? It's exactly what I expected, right? If you look at my old video, the super long video, right, 3 hours altogether, I was talking about the Pokemon and the lacks of like end game content, right? That's coming in now in the DLC. Pokemon Home also has one of the things that I immediately said that they would have, right? And not just me, but a lot of people said this thing. And that, of course, is the GTS, right? So the GTS is this. This is the GTS thing, if you've never seen it before. So the GTS thing is the way you trade Pokemons, right, in the old games. And it was free. There's a big point here is that GTS used to be free, okay? So in Pokemon Sun and Moon, you had GTS, and while yes, there are a lot of like, I want to have this thing for like, trade me my legendary for this crap, and it's kind of annoying. It should remove those stuff. It should really clean it up. It still was a very good way to be able to trade your Pokemons and easily get other Pokemons from the other, Sword or Shield, Red or Blue or whatever, yeah, and that kind of thing. And generally, I liked it because you went in there, you saw that someone was like, oh, I want to have this thing. I want to have, this Pokemon for X and Y and Z. It has to be a girl and it has to be a female. And then you will go out and you will, capture that Pokemon, right? You will come back and yeah. So that was, I liked it. And obviously, GTS was removed. Pokemon Sword has a horrible internet system altogether. And me and basically everyone else predicted that, they're probably going to put it in Home, right? They're literally going to put GTS in Home, so it's forcing you to use their other system, right? Forcing you to use the Home system so that you get more money. And yes, Home has both like some freemium stuff, some paying stuff, but still though, they put the GTS system that has been in Pokemon for several generations and threw it in the Home, right? To force you to get the Home, right? So it's a very like sinister, a very how to get money from the people, right? I think that's the most obvious thing there, that they had a system and they literally forcefully removed it from the previous games. Of course, there are other issues too in Pokemon Sword and Shield with like basically no in-game content and so on, right? Obviously dex state and stuff like that, and so on. And that also, this topic here, I'll talk about Home first, but I said immediately, right? Dex state, of course, as I said, during dex state or during the whole end of Sword and Shield release and so on, of course, this is a lie. They were like, oh, we're never gonna release, these are the only Pokemons, we're never gonna, they will come into the next generation. And DLC, here's some Pokemon. Yeah, obviously DLC was gonna add in more Pokemons, right? It's an obvious lie, and everyone knew it. So it's very, very greedy, right? And it's quite sad, honestly, because how stupid people are. So that frustrates me generally, because I am frustrated that people are so forgiving for Nintendo, right, and Game Freak. It's like, if any other company, if Bethesda did this thing, if Blizzard did this thing, and Blizzard has, has a lot of controversy right now, and so on, EA, if they did this stuff, people will be ranting, people will be angry at, but it's for Nintendo games. And again, I like Nintendo games, okay? I play Nintendo, I have every console since the NES, right? I play Nintendo for all my life. I have my Zelda. Yeah, I like Nintendo games, right? I like Breath of the Wild and so on. But I'm still not blind for the reality, yeah. So, and it also helps. I work with companies where you have meetings. People are literally saying like, what if we made it a paid subscription? We could probably get some money on that. Like, I have been on meetings. People are like, how can we revenue this shit better? Yeah, obviously I'm the person. I was the one saying it every time. I'm the one like, you know what? This is a good way to, yeah. No, but sometimes, I mean, if it's my task, sure. You know, surely. So it gets me a little more cynical view on it, right? And I think Pokemon really emphasize everything that's like wrong with the game industry when it comes to subscription models and trying to get each little cent and dollar from the user. And half of the people are like, oh yeah, Pokemon is the best, I love Nintendo, Game Freak. I'm just like, I don't understand it. I mean, they're the worst now. Like, they are getting worse and worse. I would say that Warcraft 3 thing is the worst thing right now, but after that it's Pokemon. Like, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it's like, man. So anyway, so the issues that more than, which I really feel is weird, right? So look at Pokemon Sword, where's my image? Here it is, yeah. So look at this thing. It's just very confusing. It's like you have to use Pokemon, you have to send it through the different console. You have the Pokemon Eve thing, even in Pikachu. You have the Home thing, and you have just so much stuff that has to happen. It's just so much, like this circle of you need this thing, and then that put into this thing. And I think the general thing I'm feeling when I see this thing here is like, why are you paying for this? Yeah, like, why are we paying for something that is this complicated? I really feel this is like incredibly overly complicated for no reason, right? You have the old system, like the 3DS system, into this, and the switches in this system, you have the system, and then you have the app system. It's like very, very complicated procedure and paying for several of these systems. So you're paying for that game, you pay for that game, then you're paying for that thing, then you're paying for the thing and that thing. And it's just like it's like a subscription fee on a subscription fee, on like a console fee, on this console fee in this game. It's just so much, right? I think that is from that alone, I feel people should be like, enough already. So, for example, Amazon had their own, they have their own Amazon anime subscription thing. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can now watch a few animes that they have, right? Which is pretty good, I think. I mean, yeah, good and bad, but I think actually I had that one, and it works. And I feel that it's good that people are having, competing with the other companies like Crush and so on. So yeah. But to begin with, and I paid for this even. I even paid for this because I was really into Ball of Yakuza. So I even paid for this thing. They used to have Amazon Strike. So Amazon Strike was that first you paid for Amazon Prime. It was like $10 per month. And then you got, the videos. But you didn't get the anime. So for some reason. So to get the anime, you paid another $5. And then you got Amazon Strike, and then you could watch the anime. So it was very weird. So it's like a subscription fee for Amazon Prime, right? And then another subscription fee on top of that to get the specific genres of anime, and not like the other videos and so on they have on Amazon. It was very, very weird, because people hated it. Why are you paying extra for anime and not for like TV shows? Very weird. And also confusing for the user, right? Why am I paying like double for this thing? If I buy for Prime, why can't I watch your specific here? It's like I need like an extra dollar, And and also because they didn't call it like, as I said, Amazon, I don't know, Gold Prime or like, Platinum Prime. They didn't call it like, next level of better Prime. It was like Amazon Strike Prime. Like, it was like weird name too. Yeah, it was like Strike. Is that like worse or better than Prime? Yeah, it was confusing. And I think it even was possible to buy Strike not having Prime, but then it didn't do anything. So you had to like pay for them both. It was like a weird thing. It didn't get cheap if you bought them at the same time. Basically, that got debunked. Yeah, so they threw it away. They just removed it because everyone hated it. No one wanted to pay for it. I mean, I paid for it a little bit, but very few people did, right? And then they just said, okay, whatever. People hate this shit. It's confusing. Double subscription model, very weird, and they removed it completely because. Yeah, there was a lot of complaints on that thing. And that's how I kind of feel with Pokemon here, right? It's like, if you go back to this image here with Pokemon, I do kind of feel it's like, I need this thing, then I need the Switch thing, then I need the Home thing, and then I need this thing. So already from that standpoint, it's confusing. It's extra levels of layers, right? That is just, and yeah, it's a very layered thing. So this is a thing called Fitz Law. So I wrote a little handbook last year about UX principles. You have like the different laws of UX and user experience, user friendliness and so on. And one of the classic one, you have different, like you have the P-Levels law, you have the Jacob Nielsen's thing of this one. But one very classic law is called Fitz law, and that's like how you're using any kind of UI system, how much time takes for the next functionality. So for example, if I press yes on the button here, right, and then it's like, are you sure? The next button then for yes or no will appear close to my finger is, right. If it's up here, that's a bad fit law, because that's a distance on the screen then that I have to move my whole hand, my whole finger, right, from the next ping. Very, very annoying, right? So it's a very basic law, like when you make a system, the buttons that are related to each other are close to each other, right? In the same way, most games have like a card kind of system, and I don't mean being I'm not just talking about like a card game, but for example like Civilization and so on, those games have what you call a hand UI, usually called a hand UI, which means that all the buttons are down here, right? Kind of like moving, this thing, building, it's all down here. It's kind of like your hand, you're handing out into the UI, right? You throw it into the game. So everything is down here, you're lifting it up into the game world, right? And then you have stuff, of course, up here as well. But usually it's down here because that's kind of what your hand is, for your eyes to move from the screen upwards to the game world. So that's very much following the basic user experience, right? And when you look at something like Pokémon Home, and the whole system of like, I have to have this thing, I have to have the internet, I have to have that thing, and sending up that thing, then another game, and then that game, and then that game, and then have like this over here. Like, it's super complicated, right? Like, I mean, am I the only one that's like Pokemon is goddamn complicated to use in that sense? And it's kind of funny because Pokemon obviously is like a, you know, family-friendly thing for kids, right? Primarily, that's what they're claiming at least. And people that are defending it are like, why are you so angry for Dixit? It's only children playing it, like, kind of like that. Yeah, but that isn't like a really annoying system, because this is like one of the most old systems. I will say one thing though. Again, I like Nintendo generally, but they have a really bad internet system. And Pokemon Sword and Shield, as I mentioned in the video, is a really bad internet system, right? And that also is probably with Home here, that Home is like solving something that shouldn't be easy for in the first place. Like Home, Navigate, so on. They're solving issues that shouldn't exist, right? It's kind of like they made it bad on purpose to be able to, you know, force you to buy Home, right? So it's a lot of issues there generally with their internet system, but also that it feels like they're basically did on purpose to get more money, right? So it's very, very greedy. But I also feel it's from like a user perspective, and as I talked about in the video, right now I'm working as a US director or an art director, some title, but I don't really work with art. I'm more UX and games, so yeah, design, right? Design director. So it's kind of like in my wheelhouse, literally in my wheelhouse, currently at least. I think about it a lot. It's just like, this makes no sense, yeah, and I mean, it's like, from a professional standpoint, right, this would be a horrible system to really produce, right, because it's like, man, and then again, while Pokemon has a huge amount of fan base, it always sells very, very well, and like I personally, you know, I like Pokemon, right? I mean, I want to love it, but I was very disappointed in the current games. But yeah, but clearly it's a lot of, you know, old fans, but there are also a lot of young people playing it, right? Children, you know, up and up and so on. Yeah, clearly it is, and this system is very complicated. It's like the worst kind of system you can imagine, where you have to have several functional points and need to buy that stuff, need to pay for that stuff. And yeah, it's just, and it very much has that like subscription fee on top of another fee, right? And the server system. So I think from that standpoint, I know I'm kind of like walking circles now, but I mean, obviously my point here is that it's very, very overly complicated, right? For something to be so simple. And that's also one of the reasons why moving then the GTS system, which I mentioned, a big thing for me in the old games, moving that into Home is really annoying, right? Because GTS, I used it constantly when I played Sun and Moon. That's how I got my full collection. I love GTS. I think it's a good system. And now then having to go to somewhere else to use it, I can't use my Switch, right? I can't use my Switch to get to the GTA. I need to get the other stuff. It's just really annoying. So like it really takes a lot of extra steps, right? And that's kind of back to the Fitch Law thing then. Fitch Law is mainly measuring like distance between the stick, but also you can talk about generally if like, you know, necessary steps, right? But the Fitch Law specifically is basically it's like how is the distance between buttons? How much button do I have to like? How does it move, right? There's some other stuff that there's no really good law for like several steps, but of course you should talk about simplicity, right? Make it as simple as possible, yeah. It's what you should talk about, right? For user friendliness. And of course, these games are incredibly non-user friendly and also very non-intuitive, that you have to use this thing into that thing, and then over there and then back again, yeah, like and then like yeah, like it's very intuitive. So you know, that makes me confused, and I really feel like why are more people? I know people are angry about this. Which is great. So I think some people are angry. I think it's justified, but I think more should be. And just having that again, that at home is proving that they're like on purpose making their own product worse. I would say so easily. I think it's obviously proven here that they're making their product worse on purpose, right? Like, it's less user friendly, it's more expensive, it's much more hassle, it's much more it's generally more steps, more distance from what you want to do, more time wasted for the user, so they can make more money, right? It's so obviously that they're making the game worse on purpose for that thing. And I haven't even mentioned that yet, but Home also costs, of course, more, right? Yeah. So that's one thing too. Home costs more money than what it used to cost, right? The Pokémon Bank thing they had previously, yeah. So of course it also costs more money. I don't think it costs that much more money, because I think it's like it's like a year fee. So I will give them that though. But it still is like it costs obviously more, and that's where the game costed more, because it was a Switch game, right? So it costed more because it's a Switch. Even though, as I mentioned in my previous video, that Pokémon Sword and Shield is clearly less for content. Not just Dexit, but less, less no endgame content, right? No endgame content, basically no cities, no dungeons, and so on, right? Very few no mini game. Basically, it lacks everything that a full scale your JRPG game has for that price, right? So that game costs 50% more. No Home costs a few times more, and then you also have to pay for the DLC. Let's go to the DLC then, because obviously I'm just like, yeah, it costs more. So DLC then, Sword and Shield has 2 DLC coming out. You're getting both paid for, so on. So these are not, if you didn't know, these are not different DLC for like Sword and Shield. This image here, in this dear promotional art, to me, it's almost like Sword's getting this one thing, the Isle of Armor, and Shield is getting Katana. That's how it looks, right? But I was saying it's wrong. So listen to me. But like, am I the only one? When I see the promotional art, I took it on purpose, I know, but still, that promotional art for me looks like they're basically like, here is Shield, right, and the Isle, right, and here is Sword and the Tundra. That's how it looks to me. But anyway, these are the same DLC for the both of the games, right? But they have different Pokemon in the DLC, sure, but they're still the same world, right? But it looks almost like it's 2 different DLC, because it looks really silly when they're cutting up there, and it's like, but whatever. So I think it's a bad art. Yeah, for example, like a professional standpoint, I'll say that's a bad promotional art, because like again, look at it. Okay, look at it again there. Doesn't it look like the Isle of Armor is part of Pokemon Sword, right? And the Crown of Tundra is part of Pokemon Shield. That's literally how it looks to me. Like, that's how it looks. It says part 1 and part 2. If it didn't have the part 1 and part 2 text, then I would absolutely believe that it's different depending on what game you buy it for. Absolutely. The only thing that says it is a red text with part 1 and part 2. If that didn't exist, I would absolutely believe that it's one of them for one. Yeah, different depending on the game, right? But the text is tiny too. So if you see the image on like a distance or like a bad resolution, you're like, yeah, is this different for the thing then? That's how it looks at least. But so the DLC is the same thing, right? It's like basically, please give us more money to have still, and I would argue for still less than shit, Sun and Moon. So it's basically like, okay, here, pay for, give us another $30. So you're up to like $90 now. Roughly, I think it's 90, right? Yeah, $90. And now we're almost with a $40 game costed a few years ago. So it's like, man, you have paid more than 100% more of the money now, and it's still less. And now you can also pay for Home then, that costs even more. So it's like, whew, man, it's just greedy. It's so greedy. And as I mentioned, of course, previously, it's so obvious too, as everyone said, right? And I said that immediately. I wrote a very long text about it, read on Twitter and so on, had a Twitter feed in that, and stuff like that. That they're obviously gonna release more Pokemon. And I mean, I said, yeah, but it's just like, wow. Because so many people were defending them. Like, oh no, there's only like this Dexit, this is what it is now. The next version, we get other Pokemons, and they're not lying. They would never just have half the Pokemon adding, then throwing them in there. There's no way they're gonna do that. Like, come on. It's the most obvious DLC system ever. You don't have to have, my experience of Warcraft. I mean, I worked at Seven Blizzard. Right? Blizzard has currently a big controversy with Warcraft 3, right? So I know how people at the company think, to some degree at least. I don't know everyone there, but I know a few hundred people there. Yeah, like a little bit. Not like best friends, but I know them, a little bit. And I mean, obviously, most people that are working there just want to make a good game, right? But I also understand how people also want to make money, right? Warcraft 3 is that's another video, but basically. You know, I know how that talk goes, right? I know how people are thinking about how can we make money, how can we revenue, how can we increase people buying the next thing, how can we increase the daily retention, how can we increase the weekly retention. For example, last week I designed this D7 retention for an app game, and I just hated the game, honestly. So I was like, I don't want to do this thing, but they asked me to do it, and I was like, I do it. Here's my solution for decrease your D7. I was like, whatever, and they then disliked my solution because it was like too evil. No, but they were like, oh, we want you to make it better graphs. It's like, no, here's the solution, text-based, explain it perfectly to you, a few images, perfect explanation. You should do that thing, and you may make more money. And they were like, oh yeah, but that is a very new company. They really didn't get it. But I mean, honestly, they had a very bad attention system. They only had, this is a first. That was that company's first game, or is it the first game for an app game? And the attention system was very bad. So I was like, well, this is my wheelhouse. I can fix it for you, but it's I'm gonna do it expensively, and I was gonna be happy because the game was bad. The game was bad, yeah. So basically, you know, that's how the industry works, right? To a large extent today, you have bad games trying to, you know, milk the money of the viewers, right? The buyers. And, you know, personally, I just want to make good games, right? But reality is what it is too, right? And I wish that it wouldn't be like that, honestly. I wish it would be more. If I was a kid and we just made a game, and we've done by the end of playing games, people were making games that were just good, yeah. How to make a good game. But today is much more like, how can I make a game where people will then pay me, you know, for every month, right? Or how can I make a game and they will buy the next version of the game, even though I don't do much difference. It's all about that stuff, right? It's become way too money based, yeah. So that's a very unfortunate thing with the industry, but this is how it is. So anyway, my general point here, of course, is that there is no way in hell, right? As I said last year too, there is no way in hell that these developers were thinking that, yeah, if we remove half the Pokemons, like half or so, a little more than half, yeah, and then we sell the other 50% back, people are gonna buy that. So people are gonna complain, but most are gonna buy that, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's the most obvious thing ever, right? They have half the Pokemons and then the DLC out the other half, right? I mean, it's the most freaking obvious thing ever. Like, it is like, wow. And of course, they're literally doing that straight up, right, with the DLC thing. And breaking the promise again right there. So incredibly greedy, coming back to this predictable greedy. That's why I'm so disappointed too that people aren't angry, because it's so predictable. But I think also one big reason here why people are not a big fan of this thing, right? And it really shouldn't be, and I'm not either. It's because Game Freak is trying to have the cake and eat it too, right? I think that's like a weird thing, and you know, when other companies does this thing, right? Again, people get angry, right? There's a lot of anger, a lot of posts everywhere, and so on, little videos. People get really angry. But when Nintendo does it and Game Freak does it, they kind of get like a half pass, right? Which makes no sense to me, because like I guess because it's a beloved children company for people since they were kids. But I mean, they're still having the same horrible, if not even the worst current. I mean, Pokémon Home and this whole Pokémon's for Shield thing and the deal thing is, in my opinion, maybe not the worst ever company, you know, scam DLC thing, lying, so on, but one of the worst in history. One of the worst. It's like top 10 at least, yeah. There's been other ones where people just, basically, Warcraft 3, where it's like lying in trailers and so on, yeah. There are some more examples where it's like straight up, like, okay, this is probably illegal, but it's one of the worst. And I mean, I think that's a big problem. Because if they just been honest, let's say they were honest last year, and you said that, well, we couldn't make our Pokemons for this game. We didn't have time, budget and reason and so on. Of course, everyone's like, but you have, how much money do you have? Biggest friends like that. Of course, that people are angry. But I mean, if they said that, and then they said, of course, as a follow-up thing, but we are giving you the Pokemons in the DLC, guys. Yes, we know it's costing the money, but they're coming in the DLC. Well, that would have been so much better. People would be angry because you're like, why couldn't you make it for this game? You want more money? Like, people would be angry, right? But instead, they're like pretending that, oh no, we couldn't do it, and we never planned to do it, and they will never come in the DLC. It will never happening. And then, of course, a few months later, it's like, oh, here's a DLC with them. So you know what I mean? I think was the ridiculous thing too. That for some reason, Pokemon and Nintendo, Game Freak and Nintendo, they're trying to like act like they're not like the other companies. They're still having that kind of mantle of, we are the good guys. Yeah, we are the proper development company. But they're acting as horribly as the other worst ones too. Right? They're again top 10 in my opinion. you know, in this kind of, you know, monetization. Also, the Nintendo app games, horrible. Yeah, that's another video, but they're absolute horrible. Like the freaking Mario Kart game, and you can't even drive and stuff. Oh, so bad, yeah. So I mean, they are acting like the other horrible companies, but they want to pretend that they aren't. And again, then I think they're even doing it worse then, because while some other companies are almost kind of like, you know, yes, we are evil, and yeah, it's kind of like some other companies. They're kind of like, yep, we are evil. What you gonna do, right? They're kind of like that. And honestly, I prefer that. When someone is like, yeah, I'm the bad guy. Yeah, I kind of prefer that over someone's like, oh, I'm the good guy. Don't you love me? When someone's doing that shit, right? And they're like, oh, come on, we're best friends. You know, you can trust me. I would never lie to you, even though I lied last week and lied again. But I'm still your best friend, right? And then the next week's like, oh, I lied to you again, but you still I'm still your best friend. Like, yeah, like that's something. They're much more into the whole. Just trying, they constantly lie about it, right? I think that makes it worse. I think they kind of, in my opinion, they're getting into being the worst company now with Game Freak here, because they keep trying to pretend that they aren't. Yeah, I mean, it'd be much better if they admitted they were wrong. And they did this. I watched the whole Nintendo, of course, Game Freak reveal of the DLC thing, and I was like, man, it's. They're slightly admitting that they did something wrong, but they're not really. I mean, I would, if they had apologized and said, "Oh, we couldn't make it, and we know there's some bugs, and you know, maybe it could be better." But instead they're like, "Oh, we always planned for this DLC Pokemon," even though we said even though we said exactly the opposite thing last year. But like, no, we never meant that. Misunderstood us, even though we said it. Yeah, it's very weird. Right? It's very. The lies makes it worse. If they were honest and who said that we don't have time to make other models, but we're gonna add them in next year or in the next version and so on, you know, it would be much better. People would buy it probably more, yeah, and people would be less angry. So I don't get the PR. It's just weird, and they're trying to just pretend it never happened. It's mind-boggling. Anyway, last thing I want to say though, that disappointed me generally with the DLC thing is that they didn't mention anything about fixing any of the bugs, right, and the technical issues. So as I mentioned in my other video, there's a lot of culling issues. So I worked but I did like 10 plus years ago. I was pretty good at like graphical engineering. So having you code, basically have you code lighting effects and you code like matrix and projection on the screen. It's kind of like, so basically I studied. My master's degree was mainly like design and psychology, but the code I studied was basically straight up like advanced graphics, and I did PhD stuff a little bit for like advanced graphical coding basically. So I'm pretty versed on that topic. So anyway, so they have this culling effect. That's why people. So culling is used for example, that when you see a Pokemon distance, you don't actually see the full model. You see the kind of lesser model, less computing. If it's behind a tree, you only see the parts, you know, in front of the tree, right outside the tree. The part behind the tree isn't actually animated out because you're computing so on. That's called like culling, oscillation culling, and so on. Backface culling, stuff like that. Pokemon Sword and Shield basically has zero culling, what I can see. That's why if you run around in the open world, you can't see anything, because if it shows you stuff from the distance, they have to like fully compute them. That's how it seems at least. That's why it causes so much technical issues and sort of lagging and so on. That's what things pops up, you know, in your face all the time, right, in Pokemon Sword and Shield, because it's such a bad culling effect or bad codes. Basically, it's not very optimized, so they have to, you know, cheat like that and just show you them like at distance instead of showing them at far distance. Yeah, they can't handle it because it shows you at a further distance. It's costing computing, and then the frame rate will drop, right? Because the game has really bad frame rate anyway. So you know, if they actually just let everything out in the world, it would crash the game. So basically, that's kind of the backstory why it doesn't work, and I can see it immediately from a technical standpoint, and that's an objective fact. I know there's issues in the game. I play the game, and I see that issue, this issue. I know exactly how they can improve the code, but whatever. I mean, I know from a technical standpoint, yeah. Nothing of that was mentioned in the video, right? And they really just fixed that stuff in the DLC. So that I think is an issue too. Nothing of those obvious technical issues are not going to be fixed, right? Anyway, that's the video, guys. I have to have a meeting now, so someone's going to call me for a meeting now, phone meeting here in 1 minute. So I could have worked for hours. Basically, that's the issue I feel. Also, they're not fixing the very obvious technical issues that someone with much better, you know, computing experience, engineering experience would be able to fix, right? As long as the code isn't horrible. But I mean, from technical, at least from a how I say it, from like from a technical standpoint. Even I haven't seen the code right, but I mean I've seen the game and I've seen the issues in the game, and the game has so many frame rate issues. Even if it's like really cutting it right, even if they don't have any culling and so on, you have the popping stuff. The optimization is very, very clear for anyone that has studied computer engineering on like the level of, advanced graphics and so on. It's very, very obvious. Honestly, it's just like surprisingly obvious. So that should be fixed too in the DLC team, right? Because in my opinion, that's basically bugs, right? That's basically really severely, badly implemented code that really should be improved. And hopefully they do that for this. Hopefully they do. And I actually expected them to do some improvement likely, right? They actually probably improve some bits of it. Else it would be strange to not improve that.